everybody has this, I guess, vision of grandeur that if I own 50 acres of land before I get married, or somebody gives me $50,000, or I inherit $50,000, that property in the event of a divorce will always be separated out of the consideration of marital property to be split. Is that true?
That's not always true. It's sometimes true, but and there are certain rules about what property is marital and what property is not marital. But if you get into a marriage situation and say you inherit property, and for instance you decide to put your current spouse's name on that property, and then you go forward with a divorce, what happens is you have commingled or transmuted that property into marital property. So you turn something that was non-marital into marital, and that can happen in a couple of different ways.
All right, well, let's talk about the ways that it can happen.
Well, for instance, as I said, if you put your name on your spouse's or put your spouse's name on your property that was non-marital, that's one way that it can happen. Another way that it can happen is if that person, makes drastic improvements to the property, or, pays the mortgage often on that property. That's another way that can happen. So those are kind of the ways that someone can take something that is not marital and make it into something that is marital. Yeah. And it happens a lot.
What if somebody gives me $50,000? Just after I'm married, somebody just is really very kind and gives me $50,000. Does it become marital property?
It does not if you make sure that they give it directly to you. And I actually had this come up in a case and during a mediation, and it was the other party who had gotten the gift, and it was around $90,000. And what they did was they made sure that the check was written directly to them. They made sure that they put it in a separate bank account from the joint bank account with their spouse. And they made sure that no marital funds touched that particular amount of money. And so they were able to actually keep that separate. Mm-hmm. But you'd be surprised how often people, they buy a house and they're like, well, I used my premarital 401k to make the down payment on the house, so I should get that back. And I'm like, well, once you put that money in there, you made that marital property. You may not have wanted to make it marital property and didn't realize you were making it marital property, but you did.
Well, let me ask you one more question. Let's say, for example, you're married, and then you inherit $50,000, or you inherit 50 acres of land. Is that property still just yours as apart from marital property?
Generally, yes. Inherited property is not considered marital property. So if you inherit land, silver, jewelry, those kinds of things, those are considered separate. But if you then convert it, like I said, if your spouse perhaps makes great improvements on that particular piece of property, or you put that property in your spouse's name or put their name on the property, then it becomes marital property. And so what you've done is taken something that wasn't marital and turned it into something that is marital. Right. And there's a lot of arguments that go on about those particular issues, because there's a major fight usually going on when it comes down to divorce, especially with inherited property, because people have an emotional connection to that.
Well, let's take that example a little further. Let's say, for example, your wife inherits a diamond ring. And then after you inherit the diamond ring, you now take the ring, and your husband goes out and trades that diamond in and gets another diamond and puts in there. Is that still marital property?
I'm going to say that's turned into marital property.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. Or the example I was thinking of is, say you inherit a diamond ring and you decide to pawn it or sell it, and you put that cash into a joint bank account. You're going to try at the divorce to take that money out, but that's going to be marital funds.